Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel, and today we are going to take a look at the Group 4 Jaguar balance of performance, which was changed in update 1.56. Then we're going to ask the question, how much of a nerf is it? And is it a nerf at all? So here is the details of the Group 4 cars that were changed in that update 1.56, and if you look down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th car down, we have the Jaguar, which was given a 2% power decrease, giving it, taking its horsepower from 399 down to 391. So here is how that looks, and how it changes the stats of the car. It changes the max torque from 51.1 down to 50.1. And in the stats below, max speed, acceleration, braking, cornering and stability, it changes the max speed from 6.4 down to 6.3, which makes sense given we have lost 8 brake horsepower. Now of course it's easy to just look at that and go, oh, it's been given a nerf because it's been less power than it started off with before, which is a reasonably fair assumption to make. However, I'm always sort of careful to make such sweeping statements without doing a little bit of testing beforehand. So in this video we are going to do 3 tests with the Group 4 Jaguar. Test 1 is going to be a time trial at a topless short course, where we're going to take a look at the best optimal lap that we can do. Test 2, a 5-lap race round Monza. That's the sort of circuit where that kind of decrease in power should hurt it the most. And test 3, an 8-lap race round to Scuba, just to see, that's a handling circuit, just to see how it measures up on a handling circuit. So moving on to take a look at this first test. So we are doing a time trial run around a topless short course. So I think it's a good course for testing things on, given it's got a couple of decent straights, some hairpins, some sweeping corners, and it's quite a short lap, so you can start putting the laps together and the sectors and start getting some comparisons in. So no fuel on this, no tyre wear, racing mediums, and the idea was to give myself 10 laps at each of the BOPs and take the best sectors that we can do. We've got the optimal lap on the screen. The thinking being that in 10 laps I should at least nail each sector at least once over the course of the 10 laps, giving us a kind of good idea of where the car is. So this is with the current BOP, so we're down at 391 brake horsepower for this one. We're coming in for our 10th lap, to end our 10th lap, and the optimal lap there is a 1 minute 11.222. So let's keep that in mind as we finish that run and we move on to the next run, which is done with the old BOP. So we have a 2% power increase, giving us 399 brake horsepower. And we're just drawing straight onto the 10th lap here. There's no point watching any of the rest of it. The information is on the screen there, the lap times are there to be seen. And if we take a look in the bottom right hand corner at the optimal lap that we've managed, that is a 1 minute 11.195. So marginally faster than the old BOP, sorry, the current BOP, but certainly within the margin of error, and in no way possible could you say that the car is significantly better given the results on the screen. Now when I did this test I made sure I was well warmed up, so I did 10 laps with the old BOP before I then went into 10 laps on the current BOP, and then I did another 10 laps with the old BOP. So moving on to the second test, we're going to do a 5-lap race round Monza. Again, we're very much warmed up here. We've done 5 laps in each BOP before we went for the actual recorded run. So we're just going to stay on board here as we go down to, well, we're doing the Monza course here with no first chicane, so technically we're heading towards the first chicane. But take a note of the top speed that we're reaching here. This is with the old BOP. We get to 162 miles an hour before we hit the braking zone. So keep that in mind when we take a look at the current BOP, because that is the sort of sections you would expect the change to really make a difference. So we jump forward to the end of lap 5, best lap a 1:45.9, and we actually do our fastest lap on the last lap. This was with racing soft tyres, fuel was set to ×2 and tyre wear set to ×5. We did pick up 2 seconds of penalty towards the end, so the finishing time there was 8 minutes 56.8. So keep that in mind as we move on to take a look at the same action but with the current BOP. So we'll just do the same as we did in the last run. We'll take a look at the sort of top speed that we reach as we run down towards the first chicane. So we got to 162 and we don't quite get to, we just touch 161 before we have to hit the brakes. So definitely you can see that lack of power is hurting there. However, as I was doing this run, I did find that the car handled marginally better in the corners. I felt like I got on the power just a little fraction of a second earlier than I could with the old BOP. And as we move towards the end of the run, and we'll change right now, you see we've actually set a better lap time with the current BOP than we did with the old BOP, and that is despite having 9 less brake horsepower. However, over the course of the run, as the finishing time pops up, I think we've got a second penalty added on to this one. That would be an 8:57.2, or if we round up 8:57.3. So over the course of the 5 laps, we were actually half a second slower. But half a second over 9 minutes, you know, yes, it's slower, but is it enough to say that the car has been significantly reduced in performance? I don't think so. I think it's within the margin of error. I think, you know, if you were to just keep doing runs and seeing how good a lap time you get, how good a finishing time you get, you'd probably start going, you'd end up with a very, very similar figure at the end of it. So test number 3 is to Scuba. Obviously a very twisty course, no long straight, so I thought this was a kind of track where that decrease in power would be less likely to be noticed. So 8 laps on this one, racing soft tyres, tyre weight set at ×4, fuel set at ×2. And this first run here is with the old BOP. And we come across the line to finish. Got the optimal lap time up there, 56.6 for the optimal, 56.7 was our best lap. And the finishing time coming in at 7 minutes 40.0. Moving on to the current BOP, again, I've done quite a lot of practice laps to get myself warmed up before we actually went into the actual runs that we're taking the information from. But we're on with the current BOP here, and again, I did find, particularly in this last corner, that I was able to just get on the power a little bit earlier than that old BOP setting. As we finish the 8th lap, we come across the line, best lap a 56.6 compared to a 56.7, optimal lap 56.5 compared to a 56.6, and with finishing time we come in, it's not much, but we do come in 0.2 of a second quicker overall. So again, very much within the margin of error, I would say. So that concludes our testing. There's the results of that testing on the screen. So, less than half a tenth of difference in the time trial, half a second of a difference at a power circuit at Monza, where you'd expect that decrease in power to really take effect. Yes, it is a half a second slower, but that is over 9 minutes, so a tenth of a second a lap. And test 3, 8 lap race at Scuba, the current BOP actually coming in a couple of times faster over the 8 laps. So the conclusion that we have to come to that is that yes, maybe the car has been nerfed. It has, at the end of the day, with the current BOP being slower in 2 of our tests. But people making comments that the car's been ruined, you know, RIP Jaguar, stuff like that, is a little bit melodramatic, I think, in light of the figures in front of you. The reality is, the Jaguar probably did need a little bit of a nerf. It did. It was too quick in qualifying, and then on top of that, It's pretty decent on tyres, it's pretty good on fuel. If there was a car in Group 4 that probably needed pegged back just a fraction, I do think it was the Jaguar. With this current BOP, it has been pegged back just a fraction compared to what it was, but it is by no means a ruined car. Okay, I'm going to end the video there. If you like what I'm doing with these videos, give the channel a subscribe, hit that like button. No daily race C this week because it's an M200 race that has absolutely no strategy. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.